Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and I'm sure you are all well aware of the massive escalating tensions between the United States and Venezuela, and it is pretty much all but confirmed that the United States will be removing Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro from power. Trump has said it himself multiple times. Not only that, we have a massive buildup of military assets outside of Venezuela right now. Over 10% of our Navy, tons of destroyers, and of course, we just moved in an aircraft carrier strike group, the USS Gerald Ford on top of that. So this is going to happen. So what's going to be happening in this video, or what we're going to be talking about, is why this is happening and how it's going to get carried out. Okay, so should be an interesting video. Basically, we're going to throw out what the mainstream media and the government is telling you because it's all bullshit, and we're going to talk about the real reasons. All right, so don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Helps the channel. Let's jump into this thing. All right, first, real quick, before we talk about why this is happening, how do we know this is going to happen? Well, because Trump has literally said it himself, right? You see stuff like this going on all the time. All right, so here you go. Trump says strikes on Venezuela land are coming soon. And not only that, but he is about to brief Congress on how they're going to do it. And yes, one of the other most telltale signs of when you know the United States is about to get engaged in a foreign conflict is, of course, when this little in-the-closet grinder enthusiast shows up and is all bricked up over the thought of invading another sovereign country.
Operations against Venezuela and Colombia. So there will be a congressional briefing about a potential expanding from the sea to the land.
Just to clarify, the examples you're citing also involved ground troops. You said time for Maduro to go.
Yeah.
That sounds a lot like regime change. Are you talking?
So there you go. We know it's going to happen. But why is it happening? Well, what the government and the Trump administration is going to tell you is yes, because Maduro is this narco-terrorist leading Nicaragua, trafficking in all the fentanyl in the world. When it turns out, no, Venezuela doesn't traffic any fentanyl into the United States. But what they do have? Oh, of course, like any time we want to get in regime change, just happens to be, well, let's look at the chart. All right, so yes, what is this a chart of? Of course, the worldwide proven crude oil reserves. And who is that? Right at the top of the chart, number one. Oh, of course, just conveniently, Venezuela. Huge coincidence, I'm sure, right? But very interesting chart. If we take a look at this, you may see, and this is going to be important when we come into U.S. propaganda that we use to regime change. What are these? What are three of the five countries here? Venezuela, number one. Iran, number three. Iraq, number five. Weird. Three of the countries that we either have toppled or really want to topple. I'm sure it has nothing to do with oil. So we know this is all about oil, of course, but why is this oil so important, and why do we need to remove Maduro to get it? Because you might be asking yourself, we already buy a ton of oil from Venezuela. It's not like he's completely cut us off. Well, we got to look back in history a little bit to figure that out. So if you actually go back, the United States and Venezuela used to be very close allies. Back in World War II, Venezuela provided a huge portion of the oil to the war effort for the United States. Unfortunately, 1976 rolls around and Venezuela turns to socialism, nationalizes their own oil, kicks out companies like ExxonMobil and Shell, and forces them to no longer have ownership in that oil, but to have to just purchase it. And man, the United States did not like that. Then fast forward to Maduro taking power, he actually exemplifies the problem, makes it even worse by essentially just handing off ownership to all the oil to his buddies in government corruption, okay? So why is Venezuela's oil important? We already obviously have allies like Saudi Arabia and our own country that could get our own oil. Well, one, again, it's the largest oil reserve in the world. Two, it's only a one-day shipping from Venezuela to the United States compared to 30 days shipping from the Middle East. All right, so why does the United States really want this oil? Two main reasons. It wants ownership of the market, which again, we want to get our American oil companies back in there to take control of it. And it wants control of the market because Venezuela also produces oil and sends it to who? Their two allies, China and Russia. And we would love to cut that off from a strategic implication point from our enemies. Now, it also gets confusing because Maduro is actually not really resisting the United States. He's pretty much offered Donald Trump anything the United States wants. If you want to come in, you want to have control of the oil fields, he's allowing that to happen. But this is Trump's response.
Everything in his country, all the natural resources. He even recorded a message to you in English recently, offering mediation. What should we do in order to stop that?
He has offered everything. He's offered everything. You're right. You know why? because he doesn't want to fuck around with the United States. Thank you, everybody.
So that may seem bizarre to you, right? He said it right there. He's offering us anything we want. But instead, we're going to potentially, invade this country and kill millions of people. Why? Oh, that's right. Well, who else is involved that maybe have just won a Nobel Peace Prize recently? Ah, yes, Maria Machado just received the Nobel Peace Prize. I wonder why she received that. And, coincidentally, just on an interview with who? Oh, Don Jr., the president's son. Let's see what she had to say.
Forget about Saudi Arabia. Forget about the Saudis. I mean, we have more oil. I mean, infinite potential. And we're going to open markets. We're going to kick off the government from the oil sector. We are going to privatize all our industry. Venezuela has huge resources: oil, gas, minerals, land, technology. And as you said before, we have a strategic location, hours from the United States. So we're going to do this right. We know what we have to do. We know the failure to solution has been, and we're going to put order. We're going to have rule of law. It's going to be clear, transparent. It's going to be so attractive that no other country in the world is going to be competitive to what we're going to design. And American companies are in, super strategic position to invest.
So boom, there you have it. You have your pro-American puppet ready to be installed right on the backside of regime change, like we always have ready. And if you think this is some new development, no. The wheels have been put in place for a long time. All right, and another trip down memory lane to 2023.
How about we're buying oil from Venezuela? When I left, Venezuela was ready to collapse. We would have taken it over. We would have gotten all that oil. It would have been right next door.
Yes, of course. But let's also go back to one of President Trump's first executive actions, because this was very important as well. Ah, yes. You remember this, guys? The designation of international cartels as terrorist organizations. And you may have wondered at the time, Tren de Aragua, a lot of Americans had never even heard of what that was. But what was it? The very first organization on the list, Tren de Aragua, above the Sinaloa cartel, the Jalisco cartel. That seems a little bizarre until you then fast forward to now, when the government's reason for why they're doing this is, of course, to combat Tren de Aragua, the evil terrorist organization. That's why we need to invade Venezuela and remove Maduro from power. So they've been setting this up for almost a year now, getting prepared for this moment. All right, guys, the sponsor of today's video is Ekster, which is bringing you the world's leading smart wallet technology. If you're like me, you didn't even know smart wallets were a thing until I started using this cool wallet from Ekster, which has got all sorts of cool features. It's small, sleek, compact, also got this awesome quick release, pushes all your cards up in a tiered fashion, super easy to go through. Also, it's got extra space, more cards, cash clip, but the coolest functionality of this thing is the Finder card. Yes, this thing connects directly to your iPhone in the Find My Phone app. Never have to lose in your wallet again. I've lost 2 in the last year. Also, there's a ton of different add-ons you can get with it. You can add on coin trays, AirTag backplates. You can add the Finder card, tool card, and even a cash clip backplate. This wallet is super comfortable, fits perfectly in your jeans, doesn't take up as much space, but still holds up to 14 cards and even has a lifetime guarantee. So if you're like me and you're tired of losing your wallet all the time, then you should upgrade to Ekster's Smart Wallet today. All right, link's going to be in the pinned comment description. Go grab yourself one. So we've set the landscape. We understand exactly why this is happening now, right? But how is it going to be done? Okay, it's going to be in a tiered multi-step fashion, depending on where success hits. That's how it's going to be done for regime change, okay? And it is coming. You can listen to things like this. All right, so U.S. Senator Rick Scott on 60 Minutes, which of course is just a CIA mouthpiece at this point, warning Maduro of exactly what's about to happen.
If it was Maduro, I'd head to Russia or China right now.
Because?
His days are numbered. Something's going to happen. Whether it's internal or external, I think something's going to happen.
All right, so something he said there that's extremely important that you may not have caught right away, and that's where he said internal or external, Okay, and this is what I mean by the tiered approach to, or escalation of force to get this done. Okay, what we would really, really prefer is to use the internal approach. And what that means is using something like the CIA, which we also know they're already down there. They're already trying to work up some type of operation. There's a $50 million bounty on Maduro's head. And what the CIA would do is coordinate with the resistance force or the Venezuelan opposition movement to have them coordinate to take down Maduro through some type of assassination or something like that, forcing regime change that way. That is the number one goal and priority, of course, because then the United States has clean hands and gets to say, oh, it wasn't us. It was the Venezuelan people that rose up and took back their own country. How brave of them. We really, really like that approach. The problem is the odds of success of that are very, very low because regardless of what you want to think about these dictators, they often have massive support. They often have the military behind them. Okay, everybody seems to think when we go in and regime change and nation build that everybody there is just going to roll over and support America when we show up, and that never turns out to be the case. That's going to be the least likely to work because it's going to be very difficult to get access to Maduro. He's obviously well aware that the United States is trying to kill him, and he's going to have a lot of protections in place. All right, the next step up in escalation is going to be some type of targeted strategic airstrike that the United States carries out to take out Maduro because we really like to do this one too. All right, we've taken out a lot of people around the world. I mean, think about Iran, Soleimani, and things like that using targeted airstrikes. That moves into external, but is going to be very high up the priority list because it doesn't get U.S. troops involved, right? Hopefully that can by itself let the Venezuelan opposition party come in, take power, things like that. That's obviously preferred, but it's also not guaranteed to work. Just because you take out Maduro, you take off the head of the snake, doesn't mean there's not another snake right behind Maduro in the Venezuelan government ready to take charge, take power, and just continue business as usual. If that doesn't work, then you have to move into tier 3, which is actually forcefully invading and carrying out a regime change. That, however, is going to be extremely unpopular politically, okay, from the right and the left in the America and the new movement of no more wars. And Donald Trump, who campaigned on no new wars, wanting a Nobel Peace Prize, invading Venezuela as a sovereign country, not going to be very popular, especially going into the 2026 elections. Yeah, it's pretty much going to be a suicide movement for the Republican Party. Right, and invading Venezuela is not going to be like invading Iraq. Even if the leaders do look the same, it's going to be far, far more difficult. I mean, Iraq, even though they did have a massive military at the time, the geography, the landscape, the terrain, much, much more advantageous to the American military than Venezuela would be. Anytime you're talking about doing some type of amphibious assault, right, because you got to get those troops on the ground eventually, that's extremely, extremely difficult and comes with immense levels of violence and casualties on both sides. And so how that would look is, yes, we would use our massive sea, naval, and air power to absolutely destroy everything near the coast of Venezuela so that we would then get, most likely, teams of Green Berets in first that would go in, train, advise, equipped the opposition force in Venezuela, start carrying out unconventional warfare and things like that against the Venezuelan military. That would, prep conditions and prep the battlefield for the conventional military to then bring in, Marines for a conventional force to then actually push your way through. The problem with that is, again, not like Iraq. This isn't a big open desert where you just roll your tanks through. You're talking about Venezuela, really tough terrain, massive swaths of jungle, things like that. It'd be very easy for Maduro to just retreat into the jungles. And now you're dealing with the reverse of that, even if you take power, massive insurgency that you're dealing with. Okay, you still got to get your American oil companies in there. You still got to take control of the oil fields, all these different things. It would be an absolute clusterfuck to deal with. There's going to be a ton of U.S. casualties as well. As the American people have the appetite for thousands of dead soldiers? Probably not. All right, so a better comparison to what this war or invasion would look like would be Vietnam than Iraq. And you saw the numbers in Vietnam. Obviously, the death toll almost 10x higher in Vietnam due to trying to fight in the jungle and different things like that. It's not anything anybody wants. So what is going to happen? What's my prediction? First, they're going to try to use the CIA to carry out an assassination attempt that way through the opposition force, for sure. 2, if that doesn't work, you probably start pushing in U.S. Special Operations teams to try to train, advise, and equip and build out their resistance force to see if you can get the resistance force of the Venezuelan people to overthrow their own government. If that doesn't work, 3, you're only left with one real option, and that is to actually forcefully invade the country And my God, if we actually do that, I can't imagine we're going to do that. But at this point, I don't know, guys, because they're making it very, very clear they are going to remove Maduro one way or the other. So I know Trump is about to brief Congress on what he's planning to do here in the next couple days, and it'll be interesting to see where the next couple weeks take us, because I think we're going to escalate beyond just blowing up boats here pretty soon. So hope you found that one interesting. It's going to do for today's video. Catch you on the next video.